Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Variety Hour, and didn't do one earlier this week because I have to inform you that Sergio Paradise is a little unwell. He's going to be fine, but he's at home resting up. So
can you prove that?
I can.
Have you got a doctor's certificate? We want the real story.
Well, for someone who sounds like he smoked a carton of Winnie Blues before coming on air, people tend to believe that he is sick, but he was actually quite sick. So
has he gone to his surname?
Yeah, that's right. No,
he's never been to me.
He's alive. He's alive, I should add, just in case. I hope people listen to this whole message. So he is going to be back next week, but sorry about that. But I should add, in the studio we have, as always on Thursday, the man whose sitcom was cancelled overnight due to one tweet, Danny McGinley.
Yes.
Hey, Danny.
Oh, good.
Do you regret the tweet now?
No, I stand by it. I believe it was a good pun. And really, I mean, if anyone's going to be upset, it's because I stole the joke from Are You Being Served?
And we also have probably in his last couple of weeks with us on Earth, because he's about to go to Russia. We may never see him again. He might be in a gulag.
But he'll be faking his own death.
Yeah, he might be faking his own death in the next few weeks. Francis Leach, how are you, Francis? Are you ready for Russia?
I am ready for Russia. I am. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, it's going to be a crazy time.
Is that your plan to communicate? Just talk with a Russian accent?
I'm going to just sound like Boris from Rocky and Bullwinkle for the entire trip.
You're not un-Boris-like. If we gave you Titus's hat, you would be Boris.
Worked perfectly.
Let's get a photo of that for social.
So that means we've got you away for a few weeks. When do you leave the country?
Friday week. I'm off to Moscow, and hopefully the Socceroos have a decent tournament.
Will you do next Thursday's pod? Should we say our goodbyes?
Yes. We will have vodka.
We'll do
vodka.
Next Thursday?
Next
I'm
Thursday.
up for that.
What about your, what other cities are you going to in Russia?
To Samara, which is probably the closest as you can get to an old Soviet theme park. It looks a bit broken and a little bit like it's lost in the 1980s.
Like Chernobyl?
Like Chernobyl. Going to Sochi, Putin's playground on the Black Sea.
Yes.
So that'll be lovely. We're also going to Kazan, which is sort of like the third city in Russia, which has extraordinary architecture. So looking forward to that. And then up to St. Petersburg for a couple of days, and then back to Moscow, and who knows where after that.
Titus, we should make requests for Frankie to bring back the worst World Cup merch possible as gifts for us.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That will be easy.
And vodka.
And vodka, obviously.
I think one and the same could possibly be the case.
And an obscure Russian sports club merch. Like, buy some merch for obscure teams, rivals, so me and Titus can hate each other.
So you can be Russian hooligans, like Russian ultras.
Bashing each other.
We should thank our supporters once again, and we had a few join up last week, so people keep joining, so that's how we can keep this thing on air. We should also mention, you got any gigs, Danny? You had a brain awareness gig.
I did have a brain awareness. I did a charity fundraiser
on Saturday night.
Last Saturday night, so if you have a time machine, go back. It was a lot of fun. If you're hearing this the day it comes out, which is Thursday the 31st of May. Yeah. Tomorrow night I'm filling in hosting at the Comics Lounge. Nick Cody is a brilliant comedian. He's headlining and he asked me to fill in host. That's tomorrow night. Or tonight if you're hearing it tomorrow. Or yesterday if you're listening on Saturday. Right. But that's the only gig that's Friday, in my point of
1st
reference.
Of June.
Yeah.
So who else? Is it Cody? Anyone else?
I have no idea.
Can't remember.
He just asked.
You're a good host.
Yeah,
And you're going on the road, Titus?
Yes, I'm on the road. I do the Comics Lounge next Wednesday. And I do the Arkaba in Adelaide on Thursday next week. So I'll put the link in the
Arkaba where Cold Chisel started.
Yeah, that was one of those that's claim to fame.
I think Titus is going to do his best on Pike and just stare at the crowd for a minute and a half to start the show.
That's a good idea.
That's what his audience often do.
Yeah, that's right. They're often trying to tell me to
How
lift.
weird was that?
Well, he said it was to let his players know the severity of the situation. So
I just wanted one of them.
That is what my crowd often do to me.
I just wanted one of them to arc up and say, "You're not saying anything, Tony." Like that Tony Abbott interview.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah, right.
You're not saying anything.
Well,
eat an onion. And I'll sort of that.
On that note, I have been absolutely thrilled that Melbourne won the premiership this week.
Yeah.
The reaction in the media has been so over the top to Melbourne's,
4 in a row?
I think it's 5 in a row.
5 in a row.
But it's
Wow.
it's all against...
Have you released a DVD box set?
Yeah, that's right. It's all against, like, we beat North, so that's North proving to be pretty good. But apart from that, it's, Essendon, Carlton, and Essendon when they were really not very good. Adelaide had something like 9 of their top 20 out.
And they'd just been the week before they'd been pushed to the limit by the Bulldogs.
Yeah.
They suffered hypothermia in the back line.
They did.
So,
round.
Melbourne are going all right, but let's not forget they did get smashed by Hawthorn and Richmond on the MCG. So
that's right. Do you ever play on the MCG?
No, I don't think any big games are ever played there, are they?
Just on DVD box sets, Francis, did St Kilda win the first 10 games of 2004 and release it as a box set? Am I making that up?
I don't know if they released it as a box set. They won the first 10 games of 2004, that's right.
I remember
seeing
the streak.
I remember seeing
they won the first 19.
Could someone confirm that on socials?
They did win the first 19 in a row of 2009. That was
right.
a streak.
Oh, yeah. Didn't come out on a box set, though.
I think it's on Netflix.
Who did you lose to in round 19?
We lost to North Melbourne, and then we lost 2 consecutive games. We won to North Melbourne, and then the week after, Nick Rewalt missed a goal, kick shot for goal against Essendon, and we lost. And then we beat Melbourne in round 23, and then won to the finals.
And you finished on top of the ladder that year?
So I think we did.
Right.
Yeah. But then we lost.
Sorry.
Did you win the premiership that year?
They got they cheated in the prelim. I remember that.
Oh, here we go.
We litigate all our pain.
Now, the Hall of Fame was on Tuesday night, and I love all the media that go. So this is the best night. They all love it.
It's such an insider's night, isn't it?
It's such an insider's night. It's such a. I mean, I've been before, and it is a fun night. And all
really?
that.
How'd you get inside?
I was working there as a cleaner.
I wish it was like the presidential correspondence, where someone has to actually gets up and does a roast.
Yeah, there's not a lot of humour on the night. It's very, if you're really into football, it's a fun night. And look, if you like nostalgia, that's sort of the thing.
So you're the only one who liked it, Titus?
I didn't like it at all. I don't like nostalgia.
It's a thing of the past.
Yeah, always looking forward, never backwards. But we had Wayne Johnston, the Dominator, finally led into the Hall of Fame.
Why has he had to wait so very long for his invitation?
Well, I don't... See, he's been eligible for 20 years. I don't get a lot of how the timing works, because...
You know what it looks like to me?
Like Scarlet and Neats are in very quickly, relatively.
It's like one of those frat houses. You've got to be invited. You've got to be one of the boys, and maybe because he was, there are certain things in his personal life off the field that looked a little bit ropey over the years. He hasn't been able to...
How do you pronounce that word? Ropey.
Ropey.
Okay, right.
Yeah,
all right,
okay.
Dodgy. But he hasn't sort of been...
But you look at the Careys of the world and stuff, and Gary Ablett Sr., there are ones that, this is always the debate that people have. Do you take into account only on-field, or do you take into account the off-field?
I don't think you can take into account just on-field, because the sport is much bigger than what happens between the boundary line these days. It just doesn't work that way. The people in the Hall of Fame have to represent the best values of the games they play, not just the stats in a book.
Because you look at Gary Ablett Sr. and Wayne Carey, and there's no doubt, they should be legends of the game.
They should be, but I mean, the AFL's always had this schizophrenia about it, and Lee Matthews was named the Player of the Century at the end of the 20th century. This is the player that was deregistered for being violent on a football field and actually charged with criminal assault and taken to court. Yet the AFL, in its wisdom, decided he was the greatest player of all time. I still can't reconcile those two things. He can never be that for what occurred in that moment. It just can't. Doesn't make any sense to me.
I think you kind of have to qualify what's the, what are you judging the greatest player of all time? Because you name Matthews, you name Carey, you name Gary Ablett Sr. There's a fair chunk of people who would be a lot of people's first pick for the greatest footballer of all time, who, if you apply other criteria, would not be there. But there's no doubt they were the best players.
And if you dig a little dirt, you're going to find, trouble, skeletons in everyone's closet. And really, if he is without sin, win the award. So let's just give it to Bob Murphy now.
Wait, we're going to find out that Bob's got a family in the basement or something.
Yeah,
like, it's
he's
too good.
perfect.
The more I think it's something's going on.
It's got to be something like even more extreme.
He's like running like
he faked the moon landing and shot Kennedy. He's Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah, that's right. The other people that got in this week, well, Kevin Sheedy was elevated to legend status, which
so you can get into the Hall of Fame twice, can you? You get upgraded.
It's a bit like being in the Qantas Club and then you get to go to the Chairman's Lounge.
Yeah.
Is there two? I fly Virgin. I didn't know that.
There's three.
There's three.
There's the Qantas Lounge.
You're right.
Qantas
where you get free beer.
Yeah.
How does it get better
Then
than
you
that?
go into there's the business lounge.
What does it get?
Have
you been in there?
Yeah.
What happens?
So the business lounge is just, it's a bit smaller. It's a bit less people are allowed in.
Right.
And it's pretty similar.
Is there better beer?
It's a little bit.
Do they give you $5 with every beer?
they pay you to drink. No, it's just a bit more. It's a bit more exclusive. Less people, bit quieter. Less people. Better seats.
And what's in the?
And then, the Chairman's Club, which is
have you been there?
Yeah, which is mainly invitational. Like you kind of have to get invited to be that by Qantas. Right. So they sort of pick celebs and CEOs and chairs. And politicians.
And what do you get in there?
So in there they have a full sit-down restaurant where you order.
Right.
So you order and the meal
steak
like better than that, like proper restaurant.
2 steaks
and
chips.
2 steaks. Oh, what a schnitzel! I like how that's your levels.
I'm proving my fucking credentials. Not a parma.
So it's and
it's steak comes with pineapple on top.
Yeah.
Exotic.
And very few people get in there. That's very.
It's just Mr. Burns sitting there eating.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like China, and the waiter comes over and everything. It's not like you go up to the buffet like Qantas.
I felt pretty good for getting gold velocity member for Virgin. I didn't realise.
Bring me my ham and steaks.
Nothing. Yeah, no. Once you've seen what else is out there, life gets very boring.
So, but if you're listening to this right now in an airport lounge somewhere, maybe a gate 450 at Qantas, just think of Titus in the Chairman's Lounge.
Yeah,
3-piece suit.
Oh, and if you're in
an almond milk bath and a cognac.
If you're in the Chairman's Lounge right now, or is that the top one? Chairman's Lounge.
That's the top one.
If you're in the Chairman's Lounge listening to the podcast, let us know. That's the closest we'll ever get.
Yes.
Invite us in next time.
Yeah, that's right.
Is there a jet star?
Wayne Johnson is definitely entitled on his playing feet.
So he's in, as we were saying, Cheaty the legend status.
Which we already knew because he is.
David Neitz got in. Now, I always thought David Neitz was, he's games record holder as captain, most goals, all a bunch of these. I always thought Neitz's career his greatness was curtailed a fair bit by unselfishly him playing forward, because I thought he was the best centre-half back I'd ever basically seen. Him and Djakovic, it would be in my time. And he used to beat Carey regularly when Carey was at the peak of his powers, and Carey has said this too. And then, but Neitz, because Melbourne had no forward line-up, especially once Schwartz did his knee, was a very good forward, but I think he was a way better defensive player.
He's a great football all-round, incredibly consistent over 260 games of football.
Yeah, so I always thought he was even better than people remember him, because I think he played out of position for most of his career. We then got Matthew Scarlett, which I think everyone agreed was a pretty easy decision, seen as arguably the best defender of all time.
Brilliant.
And then we had Terry Wallace got in, the list manager.
Wow.
Terry's legacy has been fairly compromised by his Richmond days.
And the end of his Bulldogs. He was a great... he had a great first album, and then struggled to really follow it up.
I tend to disagree. His playing career was extraordinary, incredibly successful, multiple premiership player, won best and fairest at 2 clubs, and judging people on their coaching record in terms of whether they won a premiership fuel club or not is such a blunt instrument, because there's only one of, in these days, 18 a year that get an opportunity to do it. I think he did a great job with the Dogs when they were on their knees and got them back into contention, multiple finalists and a couple of prelim finals. The Richmond thing didn't quite work out, but there's no shame in that. I mean,
I think there's a lot of shame
in accepting the job.
Yeah, and also since then he's thrown a lot of people under the bus about the Richmond thing. Everyone except himself.
that you can relitigate what happened at Richmond all you like, but his career as a footballer and as a coach, I think.
Well, I'm not saying he shouldn't get in the Hall of Fame, but I'm
Did
just
you see
saying.
that photo that was published of him getting out of the pool? There's a great photo of him that was published in the newspaper of him back in the day, getting out of the pool,
Right.
looking like a Calvin Klein model. He's
Is this your screensaver now?
Fantastic.
I wonder what that new picture on your phone was on the lock screen.
It's Plow's six-pack from 1978.
Do you need a moment?
We can all aspire to be like Plow.
We also had Bernie Naylor and Mel Winnan got in.
Non-Victorians?
Non-Victorians from Western Australia.
That's crazy talk.
So they were both cracking players if you've seen any of their highlights, and Dennis Cometti was at the event talking about them, and I love when they nominate all these players that are out. Like the knowledge of history outside of the VFL in Melbourne especially is not enough, because some of these players were absolutely amazing. Like they would kill it today.
Yeah, which one of those two had the amazing stat that someone put up of kicked like 1,000 goals in like 100 games? Was that?
We're just showing our ignorance that we don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, fair enough. Someone put it on Twitter. I believe it was Bernie Naylor.
Right.
For South Free or something. Sorry, I've got all the... Well, I got the vague idea right, WA. What else do you want? Go dig up some coal.
You're aware there is WA. So there we are. That was the Hall of Fame. So for another year, and the whole thing is the question that keeps coming up ahead of them is Carey going to get in as a legend at some point? And we'll wait and see.
Is there one above legend? Is there dead set legend?
I'm sure the AFL will invent it at some point for a memorabilia, or once that legend thing fills out again.
Yeah.
I think that's happened in a few Hall of Fames.
We now elevate Lee Matthews to top bloke status.
TV ratings for the season at the moment have been quite interesting, because basically they're down on previous years, and a lot of it's been linked to the fact that the Friday night games have been, well, they've been awful, absolutely horrendous.
Have we had more than one or two compelling must-watch to the end games if you're a neutral?
Well, so if we go through some of the ones, basically if you look at it, they have basically mainly been between lower ranks. So this Friday, for example, once again we have Carlton taking on the Swans.
Mm-hmm.
Now Carlton have had 3 Thursday or Friday night games in the last 11 weeks, and they've got another 3 or 4, I think, for the rest of the season.
Really?
Who was the genius at the start of the season?
Well, the AFL is saying, which I just don't believe this is a thing, that the scheduling issue is they had problems around Anzac Day falling in the middle of the week, meant around Melbourne, Richmond, and Collingwood and Essendon, and that, which still makes no sense to me that is why that... Carlton are not the answer to anything at the moment, so why you would do that?
What would you like to drink?
The first 10 rounds of the season, they've had multiple matches with Carlton, as well as the Bulldogs, who are awful teams.
Yeah, can I defend? We didn't know the Bulldogs were going to be this bad. So
no,
we were in some really good Friday night fixtures over the past 2 years.
Now the Crows have had a few, but you'd argue they've been pretty good.
Yeah.
St Kilda have had a few. They're 16th, and the Giants have had a few. And probably no one predicted the Giants being as bad, but you'd hardly say they're a big ratings draw. They also had the Commonwealth Games at the start a bit, which were competing directly. But if you look at
watch the bowls or do I watch the footy?
Yeah. Now, some of the ones, one game in Melbourne, which was the Kangaroos playing St Kilda, where the Kangaroos won by 52 points. That got 206,000 viewers.
Yeah, they were brave.
That's less than the podcast.
Well, yeah, but why did they... I still don't know why the Good Friday game was taken off the Dogs. Last year, it was a 5-point game. We sold it out, and yet you give it to St Kilda.
I think what the AFL wanted to do in that situation, as it was only the second year of the Good Friday game, was to avoid it becoming a fait accompli that 2 teams would have that fixture.
Right.
So like a rotating.
Because that would be unfair, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would be so
I think
unfair.
they're exactly trying to avoid what has become the Anzac Day game, which was initially just a game that was Essendon Collingwood. It wasn't instituted at the start of all that it will be Essendon Collingwood forevermore, but because of its success, it became that. And you'll all remember just how fraught that became, the arguments around whether they should maintain that as a standalone fixture for those 2 clubs. So set the precedent early, don't allow it to become just the 2 clubs, and then they've got the freedom, whether you like it or not,
what about
to decide.
Carlton Richmond is always the opening night. What about Melbourne v Collingwood is always Queen's birthday?
Melbourne Richmond on Anzac Eve.
Yeah, this is unfair. And notice no interstate team has a set. fixture.
Well, when you look at the way interstate teams are treated, or I should say non-Victorian if we've got a national view, the showdown was on a Saturday afternoon and not broadcast nationally.
Yeah,
which was the best game of the season always.
Yep.
You've got the Derby, which wasn't in a great
That was also
spot.
a Sunday afternoon great fixture.
So you look at all these...
and the what do we call the Sydney match now? The
Well, it wasn't Battle of the Bridge, and now I don't know.
But Giants Swans was an amazing match.
Yeah, so there's a lot of these games that you would say... But the thing I think is amazing is you can't always pick who's going to be good this year.
Yeah, but
Mm.
you can... Everyone knew Carlton deserved like 6 or 7 or whatever.
But can I just make a general observation and suggest that the quality of contest, I know the argument around the standard of football is another thing, but the quality of contest in terms of games being compelling, generally across the league this year, we haven't had too many games where you felt locked in because the story of the match itself or the contest has been so gripping that you just want to ride the tiger for the whole 4 quarters. There's been a lot of disappointing games of footy.
Even last round, I always remember going through the fixture with a mate and just saying, okay, there's 2 games. Like Hawthorn West Coast was the one we were like, oh yeah, that should be good. The rest were all like, oh, maybe that'll be good, maybe. Nah, that's going to be terrible, maybe, nah. It was like 1 game for the whole round. And just looking ahead to the fixtures, which I know we're going to go through obviously at the end of the podcast, there's Adelaide Giants might be good.
But they're both coming in off the back of appalling form. So
they're about equal there. That's why it might be good. Apart from that, Hawks Port might be good.
But it goes back to Titus's point earlier on that the people are getting excited about Melbourne's string of victories is because there aren't too many storylines currently in the AFL that offer a level of optimism and excitement.
Well, Melbourne also in the last few weeks have been playing, incredibly high scoring, exciting football. So that's the one thing people sort of see. I think every few years, coaches figure out a new way to put defensive schemes in that work for a while, and we all get all panicked about it. And then remember with flooding, and it's been happening my entire life.
Terry again.
But there's a bunch of these, and Paul Roos with the Swans that year, back when they won, and Demetrio even slammed them publicly on radio. So teams figure out these new defensive structures, or there's the forward press with Collingwood, various things, and for a while teams don't know how to get around it, and the offense struggles, and then it gets figured out. Yes. And then everyone suddenly says, oh, it's really exciting again. And then someone will strategically or tactically figure out the new way to shut down the new, that way. And then everyone's like, oh, it's got, Well, so I just take this as the normal ebb and flow of what happens all the time. It's the same reason
global warming is a myth. It's just the natural cycle of the planet.
Well, my team has worked out the same side to 10 goals. Unfortunately, they've just applied it to themselves.
10 goals, luxury. We've kicked 4 goals in the last 2 weeks.
Last week, St Kilda looked like
we had 20 minutes
hitting some targets. Yeah. It was actually quite amazing to watch live. Also, the Bulldogs. Yeah, you guys. What was that second half last week?
Goalless.
So he changed banner riders, and it's all gone down.
The players are protesting. They're a good bunch of blokes.
Yeah,
thanks, lads.
I haven't noticed their banner in the media at all. Not to pick a sore point, but
no. Well,
that was like a big promotion for them, and now it's nothing.
Yeah.
Good. Anyway, I'm glad I bring that up.
Well, what are these grapes I'm eating? They're a bit sour, so I shouldn't comment.
We should add, though, that some of the games, the Crows versus the Swans had 277,000, Bulldogs versus Blues had 276,000, and the Crows versus the Bulldogs had 314,000. So these are pretty poor Friday night numbers. But you look at any of those games, and it's like the Carlton factor is a big one.
Carlton is so baffling because, I understand Carlton are one of the biggest clubs supporter base-wise. They've got a huge amount. They're not going to tune in to watch them. They're not going to tune in to watch them lose.
If you say, I remember, when Carlton were a premiership powerhouse, you're dating yourself for being about 30.
You're also saying, do you want to listen to my Hooting the Blokefish cassette?
And the answer is yes. Just talking of Carlton, to give you an idea of how bad they currently are, although I paused on this move, they've come out and said that they are not going to apply to the AFL Commission for a priority draft pick. They said, we got ourselves into this situation and we'll get ourselves out of it.
Great, we'll have it.
That's not what most clubs do. I kind of, on one hand, admire them for doing, and they seem to be saying that part of it is they think it creates a bad mindset, this sort of stuff. Now, I as a Melbourne supporter, for years we didn't so much, apart from applying for priority picks and occasionally not getting them, occasionally getting them, and they do help. The problem Melbourne had for so long is it was more the tanking to try and get draft picks, and the view that we were rebuilding and therefore winning wasn't the main factor that drives that negative energy around a club more than whether if you're eligible for a priority pick, why wouldn't you want one?
Well, I wonder if the Carlton board surveyed their fans on whether they would like a priority pick to come to their football club and what reaction they would have got from the Carlton members. If you said, hey, we can, if it's offered to us to take a player in the top 5 in the draft pick on top of our probably number 1 pick as well, should we do it? Do you reckon they're saying no?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I don't get, because I kind of think, I think a big part of the problem with it is the talk of rebuilding, because you never hear Hawthorn talking of rebuilding. Like, Clarkson didn't talk about rebuilding. Mm. I know they're in a slightly different position, but...
Yeah, but at the same time...
I think when you do talk about that, it sort of sends a message that we're not expecting you to win because we're rebuilding.
But at the same time, that Hawthorn, that dynasty that has won those premierships was built on early draft picks, the likes of Lance Franklin and Jared Ruffhead and these players.
But it's not a sure thing, because Carlton have more number 1 draft picks than anyone else in the league. And I think second might even be you guys. I'm trying to remember. And then it's Melbourne. And out of that...
No, it's no guarantee, but I tell you what...
And GWS is another example. And Gold Coast too. So, I say this all the time, but it's not the NBA. Building through the draft in the AFL is one way to, improve. But it's not the be-all and end-all. You're not going to find a LeBron James that's single-handedly going to turn your team around. It's also what you do once they come into the club and how you develop them and all that sort of stuff. Because Melbourne used to get heaps of number 1 draft picks and people will see them as busts. But when every single one of them busts, you have to say, well, what was the environment they were going into? Like, I actually think Melbourne ruined a bunch of young kids.
I've got no doubt it did. But I still think if you've got talent, if you draft talent and you've got that environment set, then you're going to get a better return than if you draft players of modest talent.
But I think we focus too much on the draft picks rather than the environment. You look at Sydney, they've been in the finals for like 20 years in a row, and a lot of the players that people go, this guy's a gun, they're not drafted in the top 10, a lot of them. They look for something different to what the others look for.
What are they doing up there?
Something in the water. Something in the cola.
Great football club, the Sydney Swans.
But they're just, and they're not alone. Like Geelong and Hawthorn have often drafted for fairly well over a long period of time. The better run clubs look for different things. But I just think...
At St Kilda draft pick is, do you want the Bogues or do you want the Carlton?
Which is an upgrade. It used to be, do you want the meth or the meth?
So you can be unlucky, can't you, though? Because Paddy McCartan's an example where, because of the concussions, you kind of just wonder with him what it would have been if he didn't have those things.
Yeah, I still believe he's going to be a decent player. I still think last weekend I thought he had a really good game, but it's just the finishing at the moment, not quite there. I'm not giving up on Project Paddy just yet, Titus.
Right. He'll be glad to hear that. So anyway, it's interesting. So Carter said no to priority pick, so it's been a while since anyone asked for them.
Your other theory, you said, do we put it to the Carlton? Oh, no, do you reckon the AFL has said to him, hey, don't even think about asking for a priority pick, and then they sent out this press release?
It's quite possible. They've finished in the bottom 6 of the ladder 9 times since 2001. And
so that's like every 2 years.
Yeah, and this year they're going to be bottom 6. So
what do you need to do to get a priority pick?
You look, though, at Carlton's list, and this has been well documented, the people that they've traded out, often mainly completely unnecessary, and they've traded out the core of a really solid, if not great team.
Yeah.
Mitch Robinson, Eddie Betts.
Eddie Betts.
The Josh Kennedy one, they got Judd. So
but that's once again just a sign of them trading wanting to hit the home run rather than, you know what I mean? There's a bunch of things they've done like that, you know.
We swapped Liam Jones for a draft pick to Carlton, and Liam Jones is now doing really well, so this is less funny than it used to be. Do you know who we got with that draft pick? Caleb Daniel.
Yeah.
Premiership player.
So anyway, now Bernard Tomic's been back in the news. Old friend
done?
of the show.
Has he split the atom? Is that it?
Now, you'd be surprised to learn that. So we all know he's playing in the French Open, which has just kicked off, and he was meant to be playing fellow countryman Nick Kyrgios, and Kyrgios has pulled out with injury.
Nah.
Shocking. So,
what injury has he done?
I think it was
Bruce Ego. No, it's an elbow injury.
Elbow injury, wasn't it? So anyway, what happened was, because that created a problem, they looked and saw, well, who else is next in line to replace Bernard? Now, there was one guy who had a chance, but he couldn't be, he'd already entered another tournament. So it fell to a journeyman, Marco Trunganelletti, who he decided that what he'd do is, he got word that if he actually turned up, he was in. So he said, I'll make it there. He then jumped in a car. He drove all the way across, because all the flights were cancelled or unavailable. There were no rails. So he had to drive from Barcelona to Paris.
It's about 10.5 hours. It's Melbourne to Sydney.
So it's 10 hours, 1,000 kilometres.
With his nonna.
And he went with his mother, his brother, and his 88-year-old grandma. They
So
drove for
Daphne
10 hours.
Is his grandma's name?
He didn't sleep at all. Went all the way, turned up to play Bernard. Now, he said that because of this and because he didn't know he was playing, in the couple of days leading up, he'd done no physical no training whatsoever. He then shows up with no sleep and no training and beats Tomic 6-4, 5-7, 6-4, 6-4. So quite easily, picks up $90,000 for that. He says, it was good, no, it's beautiful. Which I think we all agree. Every media outlet I read said they described it as a feel-good story. So just like beating Bernard is a feel-good story now. So you got to admit, it's pretty amazing that someone who has been. He said we were stuck in the car all night. We drove every 2 hours. We'd stop, get coffee, something to eat. We had dinner at 9. We arrived around midnight. He slept and barely slept, and then so he arrived at midnight, and then he had to be up at 7:30 to get ready to play and all that sort of stuff. And that was sort of the outcome. So this has got to be, it kind of goes this Tomic's lowest point, but he's got the fastest ever loss on the ATP Tour in history.
Well, he went through the qualifiers to make this one and won 7 games in a row. I'm hearing that he's going to go through the qualifiers of the next tournament to take on our Argentine friends, Nana.
Yeah, right.
She's ready to go. She had a look.
Yeah, Daphne's ready. I had nuts tennis.
So I just find that astounding. So someone who, and this guy I should add is ranked 197 in the world. So this isn't like he's, you know.
What's the top ranking? Like, as in, sorry, what's the bottom? When do they stop counting?
I think it's around. Don't quote me on this. I think there's rankings up to 600.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, because there's all the challenger tournaments and whatnot around.
So we could be the 601st best tennis player could be in this room.
Yeah,
Then
if he's
it's not
hiding
official.
under a chair or something. So basically, you know, so this guy just drives across town all night, or drives across Europe all night, doesn't sleep, gets up and hasn't trained for a few days and still beats Bernard.
It sounds like a script of a Farrelly Brothers movie. Like, you know.
Yeah,
It's mad.
very much. It's a
He's
combination.
got one
of,
arm as well. And
it's
he
Little
wears
Miss
a nice
Sunshine.
hat.
Little Miss Sunshine mixed with cool running.
It's a little. The only thing that takes a bit of the gloss is it is against Bernard Tomic. It's not like you beat someone with a heart.
Yeah.
Did you see Tomic's press conference afterwards?
Oh, he was incredibly sour.
He's a picture of grace and good manners, isn't he?
It wasn't
more
it
angry?
46 words he used for the whole thing.
Yeah,
He was
45
a
of
bit-
them all wasting time.
Now, Marat Safin.
What was the one good one?
Marat Safin, the former number one and remembered as quite a party boy back in the day, he has come out and said that people regard him as possibly one of tennis's biggest ever party animals. Remember, he showed up to the Australian Open one year with the 3 blondes in his players' box the whole time.
Nice.
Beat Leighton Hewitt in the final of the Australian Open.
And so he
one of the blondes was Beck Hewitt. It was a bit awkward.
he says when asked, he was asked who's the biggest partier that ever been on the tennis circuit, and journalist meant it's you, and he said, no, I've got nothing on Bernard Tomic. He said Bernard Tomic, I think, has got all the records as far as I've heard anyway. Fiesta or tennis, I don't know, but for him, Tomic, it's fiesta, 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 and then tennis. Now, Tomic last year spent $50,000 on a single night at Melbourne's Bond nightclub, entertaining guests with a helicopter ride, a private pre-club dinner, vintage champagne, premium caviar, cocktails, private security, and a personal sound and lighting show.
Personal sound and lighting
3 years ago, Tomic was arrested during a drunken party at his $10,000 a night penthouse apartment in Miami. Florida police released a mugshot of the former number 17 after he spent the day sobering up at a correctional centre. Now, Safin wasn't exactly, when he considers Tomic bigger partier than him, Safin wasn't exactly quiet himself. He showed up once in Australia with 2 black eyes, which was the legacy of a Moscow barroom brawl.
Maybe in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, you in 2 weeks. He also...
so 3 blondes or 2 black eyes?
Yeah, both, I think.
I wonder which one I'll choose.
He also, once Safin, Tomic, once he finished playing tennis, he was in the Russian parliament for 6 years as an MP representing Putin's party. There we go. So he's had an interesting post-career. So anyway, it's no surprise really when Bernard then can be beaten by the Spaniard who drove all night.
Well, he'd been up all night as well. He said he had 400 vodkas under his
belt. Yeah, that's
right. He is going to end up like Mark Philippoussis was. Kenny Lesson had to do a television show. What was it? The Cougar show that...
You know, Bernard did I'm a Celebrity Get Out of Here this year.
Yeah,
last 3 days.
One of the strangest stories I've read, which I read yesterday and that got huge coverage on social media, and Danny and I were talking about it on text before, the Philadelphia 76ers had an interesting article come out about them. This is the home of Ben Simmons. The US sport website, theringer.com, which is Bill Simmons, no relation to Ben, the journalist and former ESPN host who set this up, ran an amazing story where they linked that the head of basketball operations for the Philadelphia 76ers, Brian Colangelo, had set up 5 different Twitter accounts, which they're calling burner accounts, meaning that they're ones you don't have your name on, but also you just use several to make it look like you're doing lots of stuff and unrelated to you and can say what you want. He had them under different names, and he would tweet pro stuff about him as the job he was doing at the 76ers. Nice. He would trash the previous GM who was the architect of the basically tanking to get draft picks that ended up with Embiid.
What's the famous phrase?
Trust the process. Which is the process of we're going to lose a lot, get lots of good draft picks, and then we'll rebound, which has actually happened. And so he's actually got a lot of the credit, and Colangelo is furious about that. He also used it to pass on private medical information through these Twitter accounts about some of their own players and gossip about some of their other players.
His basketball's very own Cambridge Analytica.
Yes, it was really... So what was kind of interesting is the Ringer got a tip-off that this was true, but didn't know, and they thought it could have just been made up. So they went and they monitored these accounts for a long period of time, noticing that they would often tweet similar things or retweet similar things or use similar language, and they started to build this idea that it was possibly coming from the same person. When they finally thought they had enough information to work out if it was actually going to be, that this guy was actually running all 5, they contacted the Philadelphia 76ers, and they knew about, they suspected it was 5, but they didn't want to tip them off that they knew that it was the 5. So they mentioned just 2 of them and said, is this guy own these 2 Twitter accounts? And the media manager said, I'll go and ask him. I came back and said, I've asked him. He said no. and then and straight away all 5 Twitter accounts were put into private. So they totally all shut down, so no one could read them. And so they totally and even though they're private, Ringer still had, because they were following it already under false names, they could still see them, but nothing was being tweeted at all. So they think they did that to try and trap him. Now, he's come out since and has denied it and said he's admitted to only one of them and none of the rest. But it's all a bit...
So he's got a soft one. He's got a stool pigeon fake account.
It's all a bit suspicious, but he's denied any knowledge of the other 4.
Next he'll be blaming his sleeping pills.
Exactly. It's a great... Now, they also
Why didn't Roseanne Barr pretend that this was a fake account that the KKK had set up?
So what was kind of interesting is it just shows you on social media, like people even who think they're running an account that is hard to know who the person is, you can learn a lot, and this is what they did, the Ringer did. They looked at all these 5 accounts and they studied when they tweeted all these various things. So you can sort of get time zone and various things from that. They also looked at who the accounts were following. So,
with a fake account, you always check who the first person they follow is.
That's right. So
usually people are dumb enough.
Yeah, they'll follow their brother or their mum or someone or their own account or something. If it's so they looked at that and they managed to map that across the 5 accounts, they tend to be following a lot of the same people. And like, for example, his son played for a university basketball team and all the accounts followed a lot from that one team.
It's an old standard basketball move. It's called pick and roll.
Yeah. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. So I don't find that.
I love this story so much. This is my favourite. Because I'll admit now, I have this fake account where I just put up bullshit. At Titus O'Reilly. It's just, people think it's a real person.
So it is kind of amazing, like, because I've always been of the view that you can't hide too well on the internet. It will always come out who you are.
Yeah.
Like, it will always work.
Well, if you keep doing it, if you can,
I think you have to be insanely clever. But it's harder then because you have to basically not follow anyone or follow so randomly that it's hard to, and no one in your own life. Because this seems if it's true that he's done all 5. Now he says it's just one, but the evidence seems to point to the contrary. He used to be in Toronto, so there's a bunch of people in Toronto he'd followed, there's a bunch of his friends, and it's just this consistency across the 5 that makes it pretty hard for him to deny.
And this is exactly why on all of my porn forums, I use the username Danny McGinlay, just so that no one suspects.
Hiding in plain sight.
I thought you were going to say Francis Lee. So it'd be interesting because they're now, Philadelphia 76ers are investigating it. Now, Joel Embiid, who is the centre for the Philadelphia 76ers, not only a very good young player going on to potentially be great, he has a very funny sense of humour. So he tweeted at one of the fake so-called burner accounts, slagging it off. So it just shows you the NBA is crazy. The one thing I thought that I saw this week, which is on YouTube and various things, is Joel Embiid, after the 76ers have been knocked out, he's been going around to just local basketball courts in Philadelphia and playing pickup games against just people, sometimes kids, sometimes adults. But when I say he's playing against them, he's not like nicely playing against them, he's fully dunking on them and just destroying them. And there's one bit where he's playing this guy, who must be like about 18, and he bounces the ball off the guy's head, catches it back, goes around him and does a windmill dunk on him. If you Google his name, you'll find Joel Embiid.
If he was an AFL player that had a pickup game of any sort, there'd be a royal commission. Oh, you can't do that.
That's
right.
Tony Liberatore.
So he's doing it at
Swans.
he's apparently they're saying he's terrorising all these basketball courts across Philadelphia just for fun, and they're all popping up all the videos of him doing that.
And it's dangerous there. According to a song I heard Will Smith sing, they're chilling out, max, relaxing, all cool, shooting some b-ball, and then a couple of guys are up to no good.
That's right.
Francis is staring at me so blankly.
Yeah.
You would.
You don't remember the Fresh
Prince of Bel-Air?
Did you ever watch that sitcom?
My 16-year-old daughter just recently went through a Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Really? Recently?
Yeah.
Is it still pop? Because I remember when that was on Channel 9. It was Parker Lewis Can't Lose and Fresh Prince of Bel Air double.
Kalua. So just generally,
never miss that.
if you watch that, Ferris Bueller just became black in order. Do you know what the creepy thing of that is? And this is very nerdy and probably you guys are too old
Let's
for
go
it.
there then.
Uncle Phil was the voice of Shredder in the Ninja Turtles cartoon.
Yeah, so yeah.
Which is just so, like, it is absolutely his voice, but Uncle Phil, you're so evil.
Now, we don't know what's going to happen with Kalingalo from the Philadelphia 76ers.
Wasn't he banging up players as well?
Yeah, he was doing a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
and he was also he was defending various trades, and they reckon at one point one of the Twitter accounts sort of gave away a trade that they were going to do.
Is he running Grant Thomas's Twitter account as well?
I love how Grant Thomas doesn't follow anyone.
That tells you everything you need to know.
Not even even when he not even Nick Rewalt, he doesn't follow anyone.
Not interested in the sound of anyone else.
If you're on Twitter and you don't follow anyone, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, Ronnie Cheng.
Does he not follow anyone?
He used to. I think he's followed a few now, but he was famously never followed anyone. Famously. Well, famously within the group. What the hell is wrong with you, Ronnie?
Round 10 preview.
Yes.
Friday night, we've got Sydney v Carlton at the SCG. I can't see anyone but Sydney winning this game. Who knows?
I can't see anyone but Sydney watching this game.
That's more the point.
I'll watch it because I got nothing else to do.
No, Friday night, Socceroos play Czech Republic, or Czechia, as they're sometimes called now. That's live on Channel 10.
What time's that on?
9 p.m. kickoff.
Oh, so it's a reasonable... Where's that from?
It's like midday in Turkey or something.
Right. So that's part of the warm-up.
It is. Yeah. So this is where Van Marwijk gets to start to
his new team.
Yeah, well, the interesting one on this is quickly Daniel Arzani. He's got to get a cap on that kid's head. So will he play him in this game?
Well, this is the Croat?
This is the young Australian-Iranian kid. So
okay.
He plays at Melbourne City. He was probably the most talented, skill-wise, the most talented player in that squad at the moment.
That's not saying much with Melbourne City.
Oh, and he's a prodigy, though.
I thought you meant the Socceroos squad. I was about to get all up. What, he's more skillful than Tommy Rogic?
I think he is. I think he's got this brilliant young kid. They want to get a cap on that kid's head so that
he's eligible.
So the Iranians want him. So
are we going to win this game?
It's so hard to know. We don't know what Van Marwijk's football looks like. We haven't seen him.
That's true. It's always good to change coaches right before the World Cup.
Well, I don't think we had a say in that. Leaving. If Czech Republic aren't playing in the World Cup, I don't think. No.
Right. What impact will that game have on the AFL season?
And put Ron Bressi on the front of the newspaper again. Shooting
football. Sydney v Carlton. So we're all going with Sydney there.
Yes.
Yep. Bulldogs take on Melbourne at Adelaide Stadium.
I've got something for you, Titus. I've got my rough guide to the western suburbs for you. You can flick through that.
Where's that?
As you go to the Docklands Stadium, you've got to work out where...
I consider Docklands the west. It is the western suburbs, isn't it?
It's about as west as you'll ever get. So...
We're going to this, aren't we?
I'm going. I hope you come along with me. All right, let me tell you guys. This is.
I mean, I don't want to go because it's the Docklands.
Chronic.
Do you like the Docklands?
Yeah, I've got many great memories there. Just you only hate it because Melbourne didn't win there for 20 years.
Oh, but I could say about the MCG. To be fair, do you honestly like the Etihad? I'm not.
Yeah.
And what about you? You like Etihad?
I've gotten used to it. I don't love the experience of going. No, it's awful. It's more about the environment leading. Of the precinct itself. It's this giant concrete can, so you can't even see the stadium as you walk up to it now. They've built so much crap around it.
Yeah.
I think it's a very functional stadium. It's comfortable in a way, but it's got all the character of a house brick.
Yeah.
It's just a dull place.
I just wish there were more... this sounds like a joke, but I just wish there were more pubs around it that stayed open. There's nowhere to go afterwards.
Go to Live Wire Bar.
Inside the stadium. Yeah, but that closes.
He's got all his own teeth. Can't go in there.
They close that up like half an hour afterwards, and then you sort of trudging up Burke Street, and you got that bloody pokey place at the Post Office Hotel. Then you go up to the Royal Melbourne. It's there. You just sort of kills all the vibe.
Yeah, don't you just get your driver to take you to a pub somewhere? I don't understand.
No, occasionally I
understand the individual words you're saying, but.
Occasionally I'll go with my dole officer and she might drive me.
You can fill his dole diary in the back.
I just asked random people for jobs. She goes, yeah, that counts as job as work.
Now you think the Bulldogs are going to win?
Yeah, let me just be optimist here. All right, and this is cruel to you, Titus. But okay, there's talk this week of someone famously said on the radio. There's only 3 teams that can win the grand final, and that's the Eagles, the Tigers, and the Demons.
Nick Warner said that from the Herald Sun.
There we go. Perfect.
Which is crazy. It's round 10, people.
Exactly. So I know what it's like to support a team like that doesn't win grand finals. Whenever you get mentioned the same breath as premiership, you crumble like you
Yeah,
buckle like a belt.
Don't
And you are
think
playing-
we're not all thinking this is Melbourne.
Well, there we go. Exactly, and I'm thinking it as well. If anyone's going to crumble, it's you guys, and we are just the sort of team that you would lose to. A team that has scored 2 goals in 6 quarters of footy.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's our moment.
See, this is the only, like, I am so willing to buy into what you're saying after, all the years of being a Melbourne supporter. I'm like, this can't be real.
Yeah.
And I'm putting every excuse of why the last few weeks have just been, like, anomalies. Like, teams are very good, Adelaide are all players out, which is some truth to some of that. But at the same time, Melbourne have absolutely belted each of these teams. They haven't just won. They've been playing insanely good football. And so I totally want to buy into my natural state is, we'll come a cropper over and we'll probably lose the next 3 or something. But you guys just don't seem to be able to score a goal.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, I don't know what's going on down there. Like, it's like you're a boxer with no,
no arms.
But with no knockout punch. And it's a bit like playing Freo. If you can keep them if you can score over 80 points, you've won.
But there's a lot of that. I mean, the Saints are the same situation.
Saints are the same, Freo the same. There's a bunch of these teams that you just go, they just...
Which makes the miracle of the Dogs Premiership even more...
fluke. We call it a fluke, not
because
a miracle.
they didn't have much scoring power. They didn't have that much
I don't know, which is
We
more
can
insulting.
say that now, can't we?
Take it whichever way it goes. Demons are
It is kind of insulting, isn't it?
I'm not...
Magical,
I still want a premiership. I'm not that angry. It's... also, like, this optimism comes from, first of all, doubting Melbourne and the cruelty of football. But also, I'm still at phase 1 of grief. I'm in denial.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh, we'll come good. We just
We've
need
got
to...
the Bond.
Yeah, the Bond will give it to Boyd. He'll kick 10. That's all right. It's going to happen. It's still good.
Yeah. So, look, I do have some confidence in Melbourne being certainly capable of winning this week just because of the complete lack of firepower.
I think, and I know you don't want to hear this, but I think they've made that leap now to being... I think Mick Warner's right. I think there are only 3 clubs at the moment that can win the Premiership.
Swans? You would discount the Swans?
I would include them as yeah, okay, you never discount the Swans. So 4, I think that's it. I think there's anything
Adelaide?
else. No. Too many injuries, too hard to make up.
But they get all those players.
I just don't
They're
see
still
it.
in the top. They're still in the 8. I mean... it's round 10.
It's almost getting towards the halfway
I'm
point.
looking at the
No,
top.
I know. I'm not...
Yeah, I'm looking at the top 8.
Yeah, read out. Go from
Top
the
eight,
top.
okay.
Read out from the top. And we'll say.
West Coast, yes, can win the grand final. Richmond, yes, can win the grand final. Melbourne, yeah.
But hang on,
It's not a yes.
Even
it's
the
a
thing
yeah.
with Melbourne, like I get, you're saying fluid and all that, but Melbourne haven't played finals since 2006. So let's just not.
That's why it's a yeah, not a yes.
Recent form suggests that those rules no longer apply. So yes, Melbourne definitely on current form.
Hey, dog speeder, we broke a 50. What was it? 62 drought.
I'm
Target
still
fit
not sure that
37.
really happened.
Fake news.
Current. This spread price.
It was actually a Ukrainian plot. It was a fake grand final.
It's like the moon landing. I think they shot that on a sound stage.
I may have died in a
And
car
I was at
crash.
the grand final.
This
I
is
still
all in
think
a
it wasn't being really out.
It was.
Yeah. So who's next after Melbourne?
Sydney.
So I think
Yes.
how can you argue Sydney can't win?
No,
I mean,
I will always include Sydney, but I think after that,
Well, weirdly, there's you got North, Geelong, Adelaide, Collingwood. I don't think any of them can win. 9th, Port Adelaide. I give them more hope than North, Geelong, Adelaide, or Collingwood. Something about Port.
I think any of those top 4 can win. I think Adelaide can win if things go right for them and they get injuries back. I know like that, but they made the grand final last year. They've won 4 of the last 5 with barely any players. I'm not saying they will, but I'm just saying I wouldn't to count Adelaide out now. I think is a bit, if they're still,
Is it silly or cruel?
it's both.
If it's silly, then I won't do it. If it's cruel, hell yeah.
Yeah.
okay,
No, I just think Adelaide. I think the case can be made for Adelaide getting some key players back. They play a good style of football that's pretty tough, and Richmond have looked good, but flaky at times, or not as and I'm not worried about them, but you know what I mean. They haven't been good. West Coast have been really good, but both Melbourne and West Coast have had a few. Melbourne have no injuries almost.
but that's part of the story.
But that's right. But they
Teams
could. This is the thing we always forget. Like they have like they have a few key injuries over the next month or something. When you got none, it's really rare that you're going to have that run through the whole year. Or Adelaide start to get quite a few of those back and they're all ready and they're in there. So if Adelaide can be in the top 6 and they've got all their players back in time for finals, you can't argue they're not a chance.
We will see.
No?
There's not a chance. Watch me. I'll just do it.
All right, there we go.
So, yeah, long story short, I think the Dogs might win.
Yeah. Hawthorn, Port Adelaide, that's going to be down in Tasmania.
One of the maybe good matches of the round.
Let's hope so.
Well, I mean, who knows who's going to win that one?
Well, I've just talked up Port, so I guess I should say Port.
Yeah. Port had last week off, been to China the week before that.
Where they had the week off.
China. What do you reckon?
So it's a strange arrangement. They go from playing in Shanghai to Launceston.
I know.
It's really odd. Look, I expect Hawthorn to win in Tasmania.
Yeah. They weren't good last week though against
weren't.
the Eagles.
They were disappointing.
I can't figure a Hawthorn out yet. I think they're an okay team that on their day are good. I think on the G they're pretty good.
Flat track bullies.
I used to dream when Melbourne were accused of that. I was like, oh, it's so much better than what we were.
Yeah, flat track bullied.
Yeah,
flat track.
We're just bullied all the time. Gold Coast, Geelong.
And they're finally at home.
First game, we got to round 11, isn't it? And first time that the Gold Coast have played at Metricon State.
Undefeated at Carrara.
This year, yeah. What do you reckon, Gold Coast or Geelong?
Gary Ablett Jr. returning.
Oh, yeah.
So,
what a dream that will be. They'll all be out to see him.
I think the Cats. The Suns, I don't know how they survived this long into the season given their ridiculous travel regime they've been under.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough for the rest of the year. And Tom Lynch, what are we hearing? What do we think?
Well, I don't know. Everything I read about it's in the media, so I take it all with a big grain of salt.
It's hard to see him staying, though, isn't it?
Well, I've said this before, if you're Stuart Dew and that and you're looking at the AFL's making you play in China, you can't play at home because of the Com game, so that might have been. But then you're scheduled to go to the West. You sell a game to Perth, and then you're in Ballarat, and then you're in. You kind of look at it and go, "Are we a serious side at all? Are we even trying to be an AFL team?" That's where I think you're Lynch. You look at it and go,
Tomic.
"Yeah, why would I bother with this?"
Yeah, exactly. He's at that middle point of his career now where it's a choice for him to make a move to a club where he can play. Things that matter for a big name club in front of big crowds and in a premiership window, so to speak, because it's starting to get to that point for players of his generation where they're heading into the second phase of their career. And I think that's very hard to sell that on the Gold Coast.
I mean, money's one thing, but he'll get money wherever he goes.
Yes.
Why? I mean, the only thing which it's impossible for us to know if he just really likes Gold Coast. The place and the club.
No.
Is he going to the theme parks? Is he going to movie office?
He likes
Splash.
Yes,
we got it in.
That's the only thing, isn't it?
We'll give him the key. He could be the mayor of Splish and Splash.
But that's the only thing that's going to
keep him. Does he give a tree of figs about Splish and Splash?
That's the only thing that's going to keep him there, though, isn't it? What else is going to keep him there?
A tree of figs.
A tree of figs. I'll give him a fig tree. Is that outside the salary cap?
I'm going to tip Gold Coast because Geelong are just... every time I tip them, they lose.
I could see Gold Coast winning this, but, it's possible. They had a week off last week. Geelong weren't great against
Carlton. That was a weird game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I didn't watch any of it.
It was weird. They just...
Neither team will
I just think Geelong are they got the top 5 is great, and then it just rapidly drops away.
Yeah, and no Ruckman. For some reason, Zach Smith is not the player they thought he was, and they've got the best quality talent of midfield offensively.
Yeah.
They can't get the footy to them because they're getting beat hands down.
That's
and they've got no defensive midfield setup. So the Suns.
Apart from that, they're really good, though. Yeah. Essendon v Richmond.
No.
This is actually Saturday night at the MCG. Actually a decent game if we find out if the Bombers post-Mark Neild era is real.
Yeah. My Bomber supporting mates are right up and about. They think they're in with a chance here, which is hilarious.
This is dream time at the G, we should mention, because this is which is a great night. This is part of the Indigenous round.
And those guys are dreaming. Yeah. Those fans who think they can win. Yeah. Is it officially Indigenous round? It's Doug Nicholls round.
Yeah.
So, which is
yes.
They scrapped multicultural round.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
They hate multicultural.
Yeah. We only like Indigenous.
Which the thing I hate about Indigenous round.
I'm so glad you said round.
Oh yeah, that's right. The thing I hate about it is the amount of people who will tweet, "When's white guy round?" So who you reckon? I reckon Richmond.
Got a chip, Richmond, coming back from losing last week. They haven't lost 2 games in a row for a long time.
No, Richmond won last week.
I mean,
Yeah,
they came back in last week. I mean,
for St Kilda, that was a win.
Yeah, are you counting that as a
I was
win?
thinking about the West Coast game. They are in that mode at the moment that good teams are. They're not playing their best football, but they're winning games and sitting in the top 2.
Yeah. Look, even when people said, "Oh, they haven't been super impressive," the West Coast game was a blip, and
they don't need to. But they know they don't need to be super impressive.
But they don't try. They just squeeze you till you break, and that's what they do. They don't try. So if a team can, what West Coast did was beat their pressure.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to do, and I don't think everyone can do that consistently.
Good test for the Bombers, though. They have been good the last 2 weeks, got to be
That's
It's Jack Stringer's 100th game. Never fire up.
Have you seen his new tattoo?
Which oh god, what are we up to now?
So he's got the lion on his stomach.
Yeah, he's done the thing on his chest.
And now he's done this.
Like, he did that in off season.
Oh, because it was all on Twitter today as a new thing.
What's he got
and
on
in
his
Herald Sun. Oh, it's like
It's like the lion had suddenly grown antlers.
An eagle on top of it or something. It's weird.
It looks
it's
like
not a good look.
When he's got the 24 beers under the beer belly when he's 45, that lion is going to look like a balloon.
His whole tattoo situation just speaks to his lack of forethought.
Yeah, because his body does look like it's got the shape that when he pulls the ripcord, it's going to inflate like Mr.
He was good last week though, so not as fun for Bulldogs at the moment because he's actually played a couple of games in a row.
I support String. Good on you, mate. Premiership hero. That's what I say. I mean, I'll boo you when we play, but that's just banter, mate.
West Coast versus St Kilda. This is over in Perth.
In a match that has just been described as... Oh, right, you're actually doing it.
Did you guys bother to fly over for this?
I think they're sending me over to play.
You were better last week.
Yeah, they were good for long periods of time. Just don't know how to win. Just can't kick a winning score. They win lots of the footy. Their ground footy's pretty good. They win all those boring key stats like contested possessions and
decision making's terrible. You don't have a forward line.
No, and we have key moments in the game. Players being encouraged to take the game on, like Jack Sinclair last week. That kick across halfback killed their momentum. At least At least last week they tried to continue to take risks and play because there's no point being conservative and just getting rolled over by better teams to take the game on, but they're not in this game.
No. North Melbourne versus Brisbane at Etihad Stadium. Now, this is not a bad game because Brisbane have been improved. I told you a couple of weeks
ago that Brisbane were a good team to watch. They're really...
They are, but they have still, only won one game.
I know, but they've been competitive.
But it was against Hawthorn, though. Let's relive that.
Yeah, that was great. They've got. I actually think they're on the right path. Unlike say Carlton, actually you can actually see where they're going and the key bits that will be their team in a couple of years.
They've got a bloke who knows what he's doing.
I think he's doing it. I think he's the right coach too because he seems to be not just a yelling and screaming. He's actually teaching them. And
he's bringing in a winning mentality.
So I think they're okay. But I mean, they still have only won one game. North have been obviously the.
North are good.
North are
constantly
North are as good as we thought they weren't.
I'm campaigning for that to be their marketing hashtag. North are good with the question mark
and the high pitch where you go up in the middle. North are good. I think that's right. But they have been. They just do all the base. They're the number one defence in the competition at the moment, and they just do all the things that everyone talks about needing to do. They just do them.
You'd be wrapped if you're a North fan, wouldn't you? You wouldn't.
Oh yeah, the thing with time. And Waite's playing well. Ben Brown and him up forward. The thing I think with them is, can they beat the best teams when they're playing well? When the best teams are playing well?
Yeah, wasn't that the same question that was asked when they made those consecutive preliminary finals a couple of years ago as well? They just don't have the quality at the end
to get right over the top of like a Richmond or an Eagles if they're at there. And I mean, Melbourne did beat them on the G, and Melbourne did not play well that day. So you kind of look at is that where they're going to be in trouble against the Eagles and Melbourne who are quite high scoring?
Yeah, the Kangaroos started really quickly that game, didn't they? Got out to a big
lead. They were up like five goals or something, and then the thing with you look at who the North will beat very easily. They beat Freo, and Freo they kept them about 50 points, because Freo can't score. So any of those teams that have trouble scoring, North are going to kill because their defence is so good.
So this could be a really good game. This could be one of the best contests of the weekend.
I'm still tipping North, over Brisbane. Collingwood and Freo.
Magpies will win that.
Freo have got Sandilands out with concussion, so I think that almost makes sense.
How does anyone even get close to knocking their flying head?
Was it a low-flying aircraft?
Yeah, I think, that's
He hit his head on the move.
the locker room ceiling. Yeah, so anyway, we're in real danger of Collingwood making the finals this year.
And Buckley's beard will continue to grow.
They continue to grow. And
you look like CC Top by
it's
about
going to be
19.
ridiculous if they... I'm so looking
I
forward
like
to it.
Buckley's beard. It's actually... Collingwood are really likeable at the moment.
Oh,
It's really annoying.
all right.
They are. They've got... Their banners are really funny. They're actually making an effort with
Are you
those.
moonlighting?
No, here we go.
No, I approached Brisbane during the week.
It's approaching everyone.
We're in there. Please,
It's going to go in the banner draft.
yeah. I approached all these clubs, and a few of them actually bought a copy of my big issue. So, yeah, I'm enjoying.
You like Collingwood at the moment. There you
I
go.
don't, but I'm hating them less and less.
Don't worry, Eddie will say something to change your mind. I'm tipping Collingwood there. I keep waiting for them to go bad again, though. I could be wrong.
I think he's done a great job of turning his team into a very competitive team.
What after building it over the last 6?
Yeah.
It's finally, they've turned a premiership side into a side that can maybe make the 8.
That's how hard it can
It's
be.
been super
I
impressive.
think he's a good coach.
Brody Grundy's going to have a field day with no Sandlands.
How good is he?
Yeah, and with no Sandlands, there's going to absolutely be
We
ridiculous.
like Brady Grundy.
Adelaide play GWS in Adelaide. Now,
This will be a good state league clash.
yeah, I've been to see who Adelaide get back.
Well,
And the
it's
fact-
both their reserve side.
And the fact that Adelaide have got belted so much
You know,
last week.
it's just going to be a staring competition for the entire 4 quarters. Let's line up and stare at each other first to fling.
Do we think GWS are out? Can't make finals?
Oh man, if they were any other club with that level of talent and expectation and were playing like this, imagine the scrutiny they'd be under.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately for them, no one gives a shit.
No one cares, but also they're kind of a bit thrilled they're no good. In Victoria especially. So there's sort of this double whammy where...
Sit down at AFL House and not so thrilled.
There's
the
a-
parent company's not wrapped about it.
Yeah.
The Daily Telegraph have had a big campaign for the coach to be sacked from the Canterbury Bulldogs. I know. So.
Des Hasler's going to be the new coach of the Giants.
They get them some media.
Yeah, absolutely.
They've never been the same since Izzy left. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be back next week. I have a gig next Wednesday, the 6th and 7th. 6th in Melbourne at the Comics Lounge, 7th in Adelaide at Arkaba. You've got Friday night, you're hosting Danny. This is on the 1st of June.
1st of June. I'm just
Friday.
I just found out
You're
yesterday.
at the Comics Lounge hosting, and the great Nick Cody is doing a show.
Friend of
So
the
he's
show.
very good. Francis is with us next week before you head off to Russia.
Indeed.
So everyone in podcast land, say your goodbyes to Francis.
That's good, Anya.
Because we will never see him again. We'll see you next week.